And from the top of West Mountain in Scranton, Pennsylvania, good morning, everybody. This is 94.3 FM, The Talk of Sanity Check. Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. X will be joining us somewhere along the way today. We got Frank Zorich in studio, and if you want to start your weekend off right, if you have a few things on your mind, you want to blow off a little steam, this is the number to call, 888-577-4487, 888-577-4487. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Lou. I got up extra early this morning.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm making my Hillary for President sign.
Burning your Hillary for President sign. Is that what you said?
Yeah. I thought I'd get an early jump on it, because apparently we've already picked our president. It looks like, anyway, it looks the signs of it. So we might as well get right on board. And then that way we can make special deals, Frank.
Oh, special deals. Do they involve deleting anything?
Well, it all depends on which deal you sign up for. But and many times it's being an assistant to deleting things.
Well,
and that puts it right on the top, Frank.
Michael, I don't know how well you've been following Luzerne County politics up here, but we've deleted Gasgate, so I mean, Hillary might have been in town. We're just not sure.
Well, don't forget, Hillary rolls through every now and then, and she might just be coaching them, Frank.
She could have. She could have picked up a tray of Ravellos, went and had dinner with the DA, and said, "Hey, just hit delete on that. It's all gone. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. Or it could have been the other way around, Frank. They could have been teaching her.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that. Perhaps while Hillary was here, she was corrupted by Luzerne County, went down and deleted her emails. It could have all been a big ploy. Hillary is not to blame. Vote Hillary for president.
There you go. Well, certainly.
I knew I'd convert you.
This message has been brought to you by Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
There you go. It's unbelievable, Michael. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, certainly we were on that last week, Tricky Dicky Hillary, but the more that's coming out here, whether it's Ericsson, the telecom company, and the 750,000. I was listening to some of the reports the last 2 days, and more and more stuff keeps coming out about this. But the telecom company Ericsson, they used a interesting language, I thought, when they said the $750,000 they gave to Clinton for a speech. They said that was a sizable investment. And certainly the more we start looking at this stuff, I mean, the stuff that happened with Haiti, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The mining contracts for Tony Rodham and the connection, Michael, I know we're going to talk about this a little later on in our show, but certainly about the crony capitalism, Gap, Target, Walmart, and how all their connections to Clinton. But one of the things I heard also was that the State Department is promising jobs for Haiti, because that's been coming up. All the jobs that were promised for Haiti didn't come up, but our own State Department said not to worry, they'll get their jobs within 10 years. And I'm thinking about the jobs here in America.
We're still waiting.
We're still waiting for those jobs. So certainly, just talking about Tricky Dicky Hillary, I think we could do another whole show on that, but I don't think we're going to today. I think there's stuff, Michael, that has been going on here in Wilkes-Barre, and certainly a story that was written by our own John D. Liberto.
Are we sure about that?
Yes, we're very sure about that. About the Barretts in Wilkes-Barre. I guess, Frank, it caused quite a stir. This
following Thursday night's council meeting,
yeah.
It did. I was accosted in the parking lot and accused of definitely accosted by a very
not physically but verbally.
No, verbally.
Yeah,
and
we have to be very sure on this because we don't want to get sued for perhaps maybe something.
I was
more
already
applied.
threatened with that. I was told that one of the persons in our article is related to a prominent lawyer, and I hope you can add, was the quote.
Oh, good. Yeah, they can add. We'll bring it on. I think that's what you might kind of
said. I'm real happy with lawsuits because they open up discovery, and I love getting people on the stand under oath. So
Can you imagine bringing the Barretts on stand? I mean,
exactly
actually,
when did you find out that your wife took that money and deposited into your joint account before Little Flower Manor filed lawsuit?
Right.
Those are the types of questions I want to know.
So it's unbelievable. So the headline says, "Is a legal dispute has no internet footprint? Is it still relevant?" This actually
it is now.
It is now. Evidently, it's caused quite a stir in Wilkes-Barre. Also, I mean, they have to at least answer some questions about Well, fill us in a little bit. I mean, you know more about this than I do.
Well, I only knew what I read in the Independent Gazette up until the accosting in the parking lot.
We should bring John DiLiberto on, and he could.
Well, see, that's the thing. I was accused of first writing the article. I pointed out the byline at the top where it says "by John DiLiberto," and then I was told I was publishing the paper.
There you go.
And I pointed to publisher Lou Jasikoff.
Oh yeah, there you go. Right.
See,
there's the fingers, Michael, right off the bat. Yeah. I know nothing. That's another story we could talk. Our know nothing solicitor, but that's another whole situation. But there he goes. Now we know where he stands, Michael. When push comes to shove, the fingers stop. Bang! I don't know.
I see nothing, and I see
nothing. Yes, that was me. And I pointed out all the names in the paper, and he said, "Well, I don't read that right."
Well, you must have read something.
Someone must have read it to you.
So evidently this was a suit that was back in 2006, and it looked like there was some...
That was withdrawn before the ink had a chance to dry, I was told.
Yeah, that's okay, but there was still a suit, and there was some improprieties, perhaps with his family and moving individuals, and we get all that, Michael, but the point of the matter is that, when people are running for office, people that have been in office, they often live in this gilded cage sometimes, and it seems as though that when you shed any light on perhaps maybe what they've done or maybe they've done in the past, all of a sudden, once again, it's the messenger is attacked, not the message itself. Did he even reply at all to the message at all, or was it just...
My question was, did you receive in the Gazette, it says that he didn't return emails sent to him by the Gazette.
That's correct.
Seeking comment. And I asked about that. I said, did you get the emails? He said, I'm not going to debate you on this. So I assume he got the emails, although he never confirmed that and didn't respond when he had the chance. But he did tell me that this was Lower Than Low printing this, and that he wasn't... He wasn't mentioned in the lawsuit, but his name it did appear in the article.
Right.
And I asked what part of the article was untrue. We would gladly print a retraction, and of course that only got him more angry. So
there you go. So if you want to read a little bit more about
page 3, folks, good read.
Page 3 of the Independent Gazette, you could. I think John probably has the honor boxes stocked in Wilkes-Barre. So if you're interested in what's happening in Wilkes-Barre and maybe a older lawsuit and folks that are running. I mean, you got Kane running, but you see Kane. Has anybody looked at those things? I asked you guys to do that already.
Absolutely.
Has anybody looked at those benches out there? What's the story on the benches?
The benches just say vote Kane. Now, there was a story in the Times Leader written by your favorite talk show host, and it did bring up the same information. In the Times Leader pointed out that Baby Kane was running. And in fact, I think the quote was boozy Baby Kane.
Oh, boy.
So it was a good read. If you have not read that Times Leader article, it's online. Wow. And please find the article, read it. It's good. It's also available on my Facebook. So if you're friends with me, look it up.
But Michael, I mean, once again, and we just talked about maybe Hillary learning a few things from Luzerne County, maybe the other way around also, as with Bill Barrett, you don't attack what the message is, or at least respond to the message, but you attack the messenger. And I think, Michael, Hillary and that whole campaign there is very well known for their attacks on the messenger,
right?
As
Never
opposed
attack
to
the message, because the message paints
then
you in a terrible light. Always say, "Well, it's that Jasikoff running the story." No good.
we know about that, Michael. Correct?
Oh, for sure.
So it just so anyway. So there you go. If you want to get some information on Barrett and what they've been up to, and certainly they've been part of the Wilkes-Barre team. I mean,
I would love for Bill to call in right now at 888-577-4487 so we could clear this up. If this was in fact withdrawn before the ink had a chance to dry, which the Independent Gazette reported 2 weeks, that I
2
think
weeks is not.
I think
that's
ink dries quicker than 2 weeks.
Well, perhaps it depends on what kind of ink you're using, but once again, it's. I think they've been certainly part of the political scene in Wilkes-Barre for a very long period of time. I don't know how many, pensions they're involved with. I mean, I know there was cell phone records. I mean, but once again, the privileged do not like to be questioned about what they're doing with our money. And certainly, Michael, we were just talking about Hillary Clinton before, and certainly it seems that's exactly what happens. There's a lot of largesse going out there with our money. So as you're going to work, as we normally say today, if you're heading off to Walmart, if you're going to do a construction job, you're out landscaping or just up early this morning, just remember that your politicians are very easy and very, certainly like to give your money away, and certainly they enjoy getting patted on the back, Michael, for your hard work.
And exactly right, and we keep on educating our children on what is going on, and you don't even really know where the results are, Lou. You don't know where, is this a nation that's just going to continue to spiral downward, or is there going to be that leader that steps up and says, okay, we're about to go back to what America stands for? But it is such a difficult task with the media we have today, Lou.
It's just the way things are being covered, and what I'm looking at. Certainly the presidential race here and where we're headed. Michael, before we go into break, maybe I was going to save this a little later on because I have spoke about this before, but certainly, we did beat up and certainly talked about Clinton last week, but certainly to our folks that are going to be voting Republican this presidential year, or certainly going into the primary, the whole idea of this thing, and I know we hear an awful lot, and we hear this in the media, who has the best chance to beat Hillary? And I'll keep this brief, but for those maybe tuning in for the first time, I've mentioned this a few times, but going all the way back to 1960 and being outside in Lower Manhattan with my folks and the rest of my siblings there, waiting for my grandfather to come out, listening to the Democrat National Convention, still smelling the bread, and because he was a baker down there, and asking my dad, who I knew was a big Nixon fan, and wondering who he was rooting for in the Democrat National Convention. And when he told me he was rooting for Kennedy, it set me back at a young age, because I had that mindset: who was the best person to beat Hillary? Who was the best person to beat Nixon? If I'm rooting for Nixon, I certainly don't want Kennedy, because if Kennedy was the best person to beat him, certainly it was the philosophy behind that was who is best for our country. And that once again goes back to what's going to happen in the Republican primary. There's an awful lot of, I think, interesting, good folks running. Please, I would implore folks to really think who would be the best for our country, not the best person to beat Hillary. And I think in the long run, I think that would play out better. And I think that's the philosophy of stuff that has changed over the years. And certainly, as we look at these political campaigns, who is the best individual running, not necessarily the best individual that could beat the other party, Mike. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe folks would call in. Maybe they think I have a view that is a little, I guess maybe not well thought out, but certainly supporting somebody who I think would be the best for our country might be a good start, not the best for a political party. Go ahead.
Lou, you're absolutely right, because when you were talking there,
Frank's laughing here, but go ahead.
How about the Republican Party not decide who's best to, beating Hillary, but the American people? And this is what's being missed.
Good point, Michael. Good point. Go ahead, Frank.
So now the Republican Party shouldn't pick their own candidate. We should let America pick the Republican candidate, even though the Democrats picked Hillary.
No. Wait a minute. You missed, and I think you missed maybe what Mike was just saying here. You know as well as I do, and certainly a lot of folks within this party system. Very often, Michael, the people that are in charge are pushing the way. And I think what you're saying is, if you are a Republican, please have a say. What Mike is saying, let them have that say.
Let the people within the party, not the party leadership, pick the candidate. I agree.
Correct.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Let the people of the Republican Party speak and say, this is our candidate, this is the person we want.
And my point is that, don't use that philosophy, I think, the wrong philosophy of who's the only one that could beat Hillary, because if you get some of these light Republicans, you're not going to have much better. I mean, I don't know what the difference is going to be.
Let me ask you this question.
I hate being asked questions on air, Michael. You see this now the tables are turned.
The tables are turning. But picking the best candidate and picking the candidate that could beat Hillary should be one and the same, because at the end of the day, beating Hillary is what's good for America. So I'm convinced that if Satan said I could beat Hillary,
even if it's Jeb Bush.
Even if it's Jeb Bush.
No, boy. You see, and I think that's where we go off the cliff. I think so. We're going to go off the cliff. So just pick what kind of car you're going to go off the cliff in.
Jeb Bush cannot beat Hillary. I mean that. But you asked the question. Even if it's Jeb Bush, even if it's Jeb Bush, but he can't beat Hillary. Polls are showing Hillary will trounce him. So if the Republicans pick Jeb Bush, I mean, come on,
Michael.
Wake up.
I'm relatively sure. I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I will definitely be looking at an independent candidate if we have Bush and Hillary again. I don't see a whole big.
I don't want not another Bush, not another Clinton.
See what I got to deal with here, Michael. On that note, we're going to take a break. We'll bring X back, change the conversation a little bit. You're listening to 94.3 FM, the Talk of Sanity Check. We'll be back in a moment.
Listen.
We say it week after week. Don't listen to a word we say.
Do your own research.
94.3 FM, the Talker. And we're back. And if you've been trying to call, we see some more of the lines getting lit up. So keep trying. We'll get you on here. And good morning, X.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're doing good. I see we have a couple calls we want to take, X, here in a minute, but certainly bringing you on today and changing the conversation a little bit once again, perhaps educating not only ourselves but some of our listeners about LIBOR. I have a pretty good idea what LIBOR is, but for some of our listeners and perhaps before we dig into all of this, we got Gary. We got Gary calling from, I'm not sure. I got John DiLiberto's writing is always difficult to hear. But good morning, John. Good morning, Gary.
Morning, guys.
What do we got going?
Frank started out asking some questions of you.
Hey,
wait a minute.
Gary's got some of his own.
We don't want to be double-teamed here, man.
First, a question to our good friend Mike out there in Texas.
Uh-oh.
Did he change his registration yet?
I have not yet. I have not.
Okay, Michael, I don't know if you've been following the Loretta Lynch confirmation, our new Attorney General, who during her confirmation hearings basically told the Senate that she would not enforce the Constitution and she would not enforce our current laws on immigration. And we had 10 Republicans join 44 Democrats in confirming a woman that says she won't enforce our current laws. I just wondered how that happens in a country that the top law enforcement official can come right out in front of the Senate and say, I will not enforce immigration laws, and she gets confirmed. And if it's Bush versus Hillary Clinton, I will not vote in the next election.
No. Whoa.
Thank you, guys. Have a good Saturday.
Gary, my chest. Wait a minute. There could be good people out there, but besides all that stuff, Michael, Gary had some good question there. I mean, I haven't even dug into all of that yet, but certainly.
Well, did you watch the
No.
Senate confirmation? It was a lot like Family Feud. They asked her a question. They were like, good answer. You know?
It's unbelievable, Michael, I'll tell you. But certainly, once again, if people are not going to follow the laws, and if they do, or if they decide to break them, perhaps unless you are one of those special ones that don't get any jail time, maybe you just get a slap on the wrist. And I believe that's what X is going to talk about a little bit in this segment. LIBOR. What is LIBOR, and why is it important, and why did you want to talk a little bit about it this segment?
Well, I find it interesting that people always throw around the word conspiracy theory a lot. And, the interesting thing is, over time, a lot of conspiracies have turned out to be true. So imagine I had come on this radio show, and this is maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I said, guys, I want to let you know that I've got this information that some of the largest banks in the world are all colluding.
I think you did come on this show 3 years ago and said that, but go ahead.
To artificially manipulate the most important interest rate in the world, which is called LIBOR, that stands for London Interbank Offering Rate. And if you typically go to your credit cards or maybe some of your mortgages and so forth, you'll notice that on those papers that you get, it says that a lot of these interest rates are tied to the LIBOR rate. And what's happened is it turned out, actually, about a year ago, they've got the emails and so forth, and it's these banks
got emails
red-handed. Say again?
They were able to get emails? They weren't on the Clinton server.
So this isn't one of these, so they've got the evidence now. Now, the first question I have is, ask yourself this, though. If somebody had really said that to you, you would have said, that's no way. There's no way all of these banks could be colluding to rig the most important interest rate in the world, but they did. So that's my first thing against all of the people that talk about conspiracy theorists. The important part is to always really examine those type of claims, whether they're true or not. But now let's move on to the damage done. LIBOR is effectively tied to, are you ready for this, over $350 trillion worth of financial products and derivatives. So you can understand why a bunch of banks don't want the interest rates to go up or down in a certain way if it's disadvantageous to them over time, because obviously they might have to pay more money than maybe what they're expecting or give customers a break. But now we can move on to the third part of all this, and that is, what do you do when you catch people rigging the largest market? Now, remember, if you rigged a bingo game, or I was down in Atlantic City and you found me rigging a poker game, now it turns out that the government has decided to fine one of the participants, Deutsche Bank. They fined them $2.5 billion. That works out to be $25,000 per employee. But the key to all of this is the fact that they fined them, but again, the incompetent Justice Department cannot put a single person in jail. Now, remember, this is probably about a year ago, I told you about the scandal that took place with HSBC. And this is where the incompetent Attorney General, Eric Holder, again, HSBC had been laundering illegal drug cartel money. Now, we all know what happens if your kid gets caught with some pot. We all know what happens to your car if the police find some pot in your car.
Or put it there.
Right, or and then pound it, and you'll never get it back again. The Justice Department back then decided to fine HSBC $1.93 billion. Now, that may seem like a lot of money, and it is to the average person, but the $1.93 billion that the Justice Department handed down to HSBC turned out to be 10 cents of their profit. Okay? The bank made close to $20 billion the year they laid down the fine. They had to pay $1.93 billion. Okay, again, caught red-handed, illegal drug cartel money. They were also doing illegal overseas transactions for rogue nations like Iran. Again, the Justice Department Department did not find a single person to put in jail, ban from the business, restrict them. They didn't take away the bank's charter. They didn't put the money. You know what I'm saying? Now, even before that, there was Wells Fargo, Wachovia. And under Wachovia, back before the financial crisis, it looked like they were doing or acting as a Western Union for the drug cartels operating within the United States so that they could get money back to Mexico. Again, they fined the bank, and the bank had to promise. Now, this is the thing. They had to promise that they won't do it again, and they also had to promise that they were going to set up a special way to make sure that everybody knows it's bad to launder drug money. You know what? The next time I get caught robbing a bank or committing a scandal or anything else like that, I'll promise not to do it again, and I'll read some books and have an ongoing continuing education program to make sure that I'm always reminded that stealing and committing fraud is wrong. But this is where these people are out there with Eric Holder now this past week. Think about this. They're singing this guy's praises. But in the terms of big things and like really big things that affect the average person, the Justice Department has been completely negligent on really changing corporate behavior, because really what's happened is if you're above a certain size in this society, whether it be an individual or more importantly a corporation, you will never, ever, ever go to jail.
So let me get this right, just so I completely understand what you're saying. What you're trying to tell me is our incompetent Justice Department, who has imprisoned more folks in the United States, 25%. We have 25% of the world prison population. We have perhaps maybe 3 or 4% of the world's population. That incompetent Justice Department X is what you're telling me. It has imprisoned 25% of the world population, but somebody that perhaps is doing a little more than rigging a poker game or rigging a bingo game does not get sent to jail. Is that what you're trying to? Is that what you're trying to get me to believe?
That's right. I'm. This is another one of those things. Like, go check this story out yourself. Also, let's not leave the pharmaceutical companies out.
Oh, Mike's going to bring that up the next segment.
Glaxo was fined the largest amount in pharmaceutical history. They were fined $3 billion. Again, this was an example of the pharmaceutical company was, and maybe Michael correct me on this if I get part of the story wrong. The pharmaceutical companies were using drugs that weren't meant for maturing brains, people under the age of 18. They were telling people these benefits so that they could use these drugs in a non-authorized way. I forgot what the name of the drug was in particular. But again, you don't give out $3 billion fines and have no one be guilty. I mean, somebody had to make a decision that led to the $3 billion fine. Someone has to be responsible. But God forbid, Mike, in your pharmacy, what happens if you start giving out, a little bit of extra on a prescription that's not authorized, right?
Exactly. Even when you get into the local pharmacies and the compounding we always have to make sure that what we're compounding, what we're putting together and mixing, is within the FDA rules. That you're just not putting some snake oil together and selling it as a effective product. So here you have big major companies, and I think the product. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I can remember at the retail pharmacy level, we had concerns and were asking questions at that point, and yet we were just all being blown off, So here it was just an attempt, or at least it appears to be, was just to not do the research and just keep selling the product. And again, like you said, I would go to jail as a small independent pharmacy, plus pay fines where nothing happens at the big corporate level.
You guys have just brought up all kinds of different questions and topics that we want to talk about, but drugs, certainly on one hand, the United States federal government officials have consistently denied that marijuana has any medical benefits, and yet on the other hand, the government actually holds patents for the medical use of that patent. So, let's, we have a lot to talk about. Michael, when we come back, I know you want to talk a little bit more about crony capitalism and X, and you listen to Sanity Check, and we'll be back. 94.3 FM, The Talker.
Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM, The Talker.
If you say what you want to say and let the words fall out, honestly, I want to see you be brave. What you want to say and let the words fall out.
Frank says that gets us in trouble. We say what we want to say and just let the words fall out, Frank? Is that what you're saying?
Sanity Check has now been canceled for saying what they want to say.
But we're back anyway for the time being, Michael. And you're listening to the Sanity Check on 94.3 FM, The Talker. What do you think about that, Michael?
Well, I've been dialing that phone number that was on the previous commercial,
Yes.
and I'm not getting through.
Oh.
So is there an alternative?
Perhaps, I don't know. I think they're registering it. Frank said that one of the legal firms are probably registering right now. They figure they could get free advertising. So we'll see where this all goes.
Sounds like one of those
We're just
slimy
setting
law
it up
firms.
now. Yeah, so no, it can't be. You
No?
mean that criminal enterprise system, those are known as the incompetent Justice Department? Is that what we're talking about? But
Well, I think it's all those attorneys listening there saying, "Dang, I wish I would have thought of that."
well, in many ways they have. Make sure you call. You've been hurt. Give us a buzz, baby. If you think you're going to be hurt, man, make sure you have our number, because this is where you got to call. But we wonder why we've gotten where we've gotten, Michael, which kind of leads us into the topic that we're going to talk about. This segment is you and me got to talking a little bit yesterday about a series that's been on the History Channel, and we were talking about folks that, or how, I guess through the Industrial Revolution, certainly some of the entrepreneurs back then really took hold and took over what was going on. And I guess there's going to be a philosophical question, Michael, not just to you and to myself, but to Frank and X and certainly any of our listeners out there. Michael, locally here in Jessup, they're looking to put an energy plant in, and without getting into all the particulars there. So if I'm running for office, say, just take me for an example. Libertarian Lou's going to run for office, and I think it's a great idea that Jessup gets this energy plant. Is it unethical to take a substantial donation from the company as long as it's declared? And then the second part, which I would think would be an easier one, is it unethical after I took that donation to make sure, which goes back to a lot of this Hillary stuff, but to make sure that energy plant perhaps got a sizable grant, say. I mean, I think that would be an easier one. But what do you guys think about that, Michael? And then we could talk about the crony capitalism that we wanted to talk about, and we'll get X and Frank on that. But if you're running for office, is it as long as it's declared on who you're? For me, I think I mean, that's the way it should work. Is that if somebody wants to support me for my beliefs, so be it. But I think it should be as long as it's declared.
How do we determine that your beliefs are that you actually wanted the energy plant, or that your beliefs changed once you received a sizable donation? That's
a great point. And I think that's what we're seeing even with the Hillary stuff is that beliefs change after you get but that's something that the voters would have to ascertain, just like we're going to find out in this election. Does one's beliefs change after you get a donation, or if you actually get maybe part or jump into a race based on a certain issue, and then you get supported by those folks, as long as it's reported. Right. I think that's the big thing, Michael, here. I think is that if there is sunshine, if there's some kind of clarity on who is supporting you, and I think that's part of with the recent Supreme Court decision. I think that's one of the flaws in that is that there's not an avenue to really make sure that the people that are supporting the candidates are there's a lot of sunshine there.
Right.
But go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to say, I mean, I could believe right now that fracking is bad and hurts the environment, but then after I receive that check from the oil company, hey, let's start drilling at Kirby Park. I mean,
right.
That's the next thing. So.
And you would hope that would be transparent. Unfortunately, the way the media is, and unfortunately the way everything works, it's not always transparent. But what do you guys think? I mean, I think there would be some listeners that would say, no, that is unethical. You shouldn't be taking money perhaps from the corporation. But Michael and X, where do you guys stand on that? Mike, you want to go first, or X? Or?
Yeah, Lou, when I look at it and how corrupt our society has gotten, not just politically, but our society, where people look at that and say, well, I don't see a problem with that, as far as the individual receiving these things. And, it's even if you don't think there's a problem with it, you have to look at it. I myself, as a voter, would say, well, there's a problem with that. If you come out and say, look, part of my funding, part of the things given to me is from this particular energy plant, and I will tell you I'm supporting it right now. It's when it gets, and Frank mentioned this, it's when it gets sticky is when all of a sudden opinions have changed. You're telling your voters you don't want this energy plant in, and suddenly there's a change of mind. And to me, whether your intentions were good or bad, they look bad to me. And I think I don't think minds should be changed to how much money you're getting from an individual. I do feel there's corruption there.
Maybe I didn't quite explain where I guess maybe my position is that I'm not necessarily talking about changing positions, but the fact is say that's where you stand. I think it would be good for the community. I think it would be good for.
The question, Lewis, how do we know that's where you've always stood versus?
Well, that's where transparency comes in, and certainly, hopefully, there's a record of where you stood, or even if you went into it initially and saying this is where. I guess where I'm going with this is that. Is there an ethical problem, or do you guys have? I certainly don't have an ethical problem with a corporation. If I'm running for office, that corporation would support my efforts as long as as long as there's some sunlight there and saying, listen, this is where I got my money. I am supporting this. Mm-hmm. I certainly would think that people would find it very unethical, and certainly. Perhaps maybe there would be jail time if I turned around and all of a sudden used then my power to funnel taxpayer monies to that corporation.
I think then you have to abstain from anything as it relates to that corporation.
That would seem logical.
Once you take a campaign contribution from someone, I don't believe you should then be able to vote for or against that someone. You should have to abstain.
And that's where the transparency comes in. And I think X and Mike, where that's where it's very important that these donations are.
Well, they're always declared. I mean, you were talking about.
Well, no, they're not always declared, because certainly I guess Hillary Clinton they forgot to put $2 million on one of the but that's no big deal. They just forgot.
She just forgot.
Because that was all part of.
It was in her email files. She forgot to read them before deleting. And give her a break. My God.
But certainly with Supreme Court decision and certainly with corporations giving donations, I think the flaw in that case was it didn't supply really an avenue to ensure that any kind of donations are declared. You have all the PACs now. There's all kinds of different ways to funnel money in and out of stuff, which goes back to really campaign finance, guys. X, do you have a thought on this?
Well, I mean, there are two things that I've really been focusing in on with this. The first thing is, if you notice, everyone's solution has to do with limits on the money. The first thing is the limits on the money idea is just completely crazy. You should just say, look, you can give unlimited amounts of money, because the problem is it's like drugs in a prison. They're going to get in there, okay? And whether it be you're paying the candidate off now, or when they get out of office, you're going to appoint them to work for your hedge fund, as a consultant, or like Newt Gingrich. Remember, he got paid, $1 million from Fannie Mae for historical, information or historical perspective. Remember that one during the 2008 thing. So let's not kid ourselves that somehow trying to put some sort of speed limit on the money will stop the money. It'll only just divert the money.
Exactly.
It's like trying to hold water. It's like trying to hold water in your hand. It's going to go through your fingers. But it's interesting. A lot of the solutions that people keep going back to is this public financing, and this is very, very important for everybody to understand. The Republicans and Democrats want public financing, okay? And the reason they want it is because they'll be the ones to decide that they're the only ones to get the money. Now, of course, I've got, Lou and I have firsthand experience with this. The fair and clean election in New Jersey was anything but fair and anything but clean.
An oxymoron for sure in New Jersey. Fair and clean. Oh, boy.
Right. So, but to remind everybody, meeting the exact same requirements under the fair and clean election in the state of New Jersey, we were entitled to a whopping 10 cents on the dollar that the Republicans and Democrats gave themselves. And when we confronted the person that was in the election, that was part of the drawing of the bill, she basically ignored it. And remember, you could start playing all of these games. We're going to have campaign finance. Okay, campaign finance. Every candidate has to be in the debate. Now it's not a debate. We'll call it a forum, and we'll exclude you if we're one of the
These are all facts, X. These are all facts. And even when we took it to court, they said there was no standing. And then after we did have standing, after we did get certified and jump through all the hoops, then guess what? They decided the clean affair, the whole program's not going to work.
Well, you guys should have known better right away. First off, it's New Jersey. The names, the term fair
is
and,
better?
No, my point is the term fair and clean as it results to the state of New Jersey. Have you seen Tom's River? Have you seen Governor Christie? Come on. Nothing is fair and clean in that state.
There's nothing fair and clean in almost any state, Michael. But, X, I'll let you finish up your thought on that, and we'll take a break and we'll come back.
It's just this idea that somehow this is the only way, from my perspective, to make this stuff work. And that is, okay, people that are in races have to be included in every debate, any sort of gathering, no exclusion. When it comes to a lot of these TV shows and so forth, and that's why the Commission on Presidential Debates, the lawsuit that's going on, is so imperative, because what they found, the guys that wrote the book Freakonomics, you probably heard that before, they found out that when you have three people in a race, the effect of money on the race starts to diminish exponentially. Because what happens now is it isn't about who's spending as much money on their races, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that, now how do I get that extra 1 or 2% that I thought reluctantly would vote for me? Now they've got another choice. Coke and Pepsi can agree that they don't want Mountain Dew on the shelf.
Mountain Dew, right. There you go. So, hey, listen, guys, we'll take a break. When we come back, if you're listening and you want to join in, call in on any topic. That number is 888-577-4487, 888-577-4487. You're listening to Sanity Check on 94.3 FM, The Talker.
Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM, The Talker.
And although this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
We're back. You see, we played the old song for you, Frank. We didn't play the new version of Home, just for you.
That's good. I like that one.
Michael, a couple quick announcements. I'm not going to get into all the stuff that's going on, but we do have some interesting things moving forward here with the Gazette. Certainly, Michael, we have talked, and X and John and Frank and the rest of our crew here is that sometimes we feel, at least I do, that the sands of the hourglass sometimes are moving, and we don't have time to wait around, and we need to move ahead and do the best we can to expand, however that's going to go. And come June, we'll be bringing on another Berks Independent Gazette. So we're anxious to see not only what they have to bring to the table, but also the ability to continue to get news out as best we can in different areas. Certainly about as far as we're concerned, the corrupt criminal or court system. I shouldn't say criminal system, a corrupt court system, and all other kinds of stuff going on. We've also decided that come June, we have some interesting developments locally here. We're going to go back to splitting the papers off certainly the Scranton paper will be printing in June. We're looking at some other ways to do the Wilkes-Barre paper, but we have found that in general that the folks in Wilkes-Barre really do not care what's happening in Scranton, and the people in Scranton really don't care what's happening in Wilkes-Barre. I don't understand this. You guys grew up here, but you would think that there would be some kind of interest. But Frank and Mike,
it's about community. We don't care. What's affecting Scranton? The people of Wilkes-Barre could care less. How does that affect my life is what they'll ask you.
And Michael, I'm looking forward to this June edition for Scranton because it's going to be a barn burner. I don't want to, I guess.
Could we change that term to a city hall burner, please?
City hall burner. No, we got some interesting writers, folks that have been in the business for a while, want to see us succeed, certainly. And certainly a call out to our advertisers that have stuck with us, the people that have subscribed to our newspaper in many ways. I know that this has been done to help us. They believe in our efforts, Michael and John and our rest of the crew. When I say us, I truly mean us. But in many ways, a lot of our advertisers have stuck with us because they believe that a free and independent press, guys, is important. And certainly we're going to do the best we can to expand in ways that I guess get a message, getting message out in as many communities as we can, because when we started this, Michael, many years ago, it seems like a lifetime ago, that it was a 2014, 2016 project. We're approaching 2016, so we have to start meeting our own goals. So those are a few announcements there. And now I've completely forgot what we were talking about before. But
Lou, let me just give a quick shout out to the paper. It's important to recognize that this past week, 60 Minutes did a special talking about the chemical weapons and so forth. Again, they're still trying to blame on the Assad regime, which through the reporting in the Independent Gazette, through our contacts, we know that the gas and Assad, although he's a bad guy, he's the preferred candidate in the Syrian civil war.
Yeah, and if you are a Christian that lives in Syria, I suspect that you're rooting not for McCain and whatever the other guy down there in South Carolina is to take out Assad. You're probably rooting for Assad because if he disappears, so will probably the Christian community in Syria. And once again, we would be happy, very happy to take calls from folks that are involved in that area. Certainly, we've been trying to stay involved more so with all of this also, guys. But X, you do happen to get on quite a few shows, correct, X? You do a lot of radio call-ins, a lot of national call-ins, and now I believe you are promoting the article. We just printed an updated one in the Quad. And once again, you could research some of that stuff or go to any of our websites and just put in Syria, policy change or more confusion, or just put in Syria and see what we've written on that. But I think it's interesting. I think that's some of the stuff that we bring to the table, guys.
Are you talking about truth?
Yeah, and yes, Michael, and that's it. And then once again, where the truth might find. I mean, we could make mistakes, and I think the important thing here is that we are seeking out the truth, and there are repercussions to the truth. We've known that. We've seen what happened in Wilkes-Barre. If you don't tell
it, it'll wind up in the Gazette. That's the repercussion.
But, in our quest for the truth, and there are repercussions, financial repercussions at times, because when you do
you won't
go
win
up
the
against,
election.
Well, it's not just that, Frank, but I'm talking about, what comes back to us guys is that, very often when you have the powerful, and we've seen that happen, there's retribution, and we get that. I mean, if we write a story, I don't suspect Bill Barrett is going to be going out and doing the praises of the Gazette. You think that he's going to go to the local diner there in Wilkes-Barre and say, geez, you guys really need to advertise in the Gazette? I think it would be just the opposite. So we understand that there is repercussions, and I think Michael and X, certainly we get it, and I know the folks that have supported us gets it, that there are repercussions, but where do we draw the line, Michael? Because once we start compromising, yes, it would be easy not to write that article. We could have written something else about what's going on in Wilkes-Barre, but then we're no different than anybody else, guys. And I think that's what's important. I didn't even know we're going to get on this whole topic here today, but what's really important is what we do. And why we're doing what we're doing is for reasons that are not necessarily tied to financial interests. And I think if we don't go down that road, and we always tie it into financial interests, I think that what happens then is that we become no better than what the other media already is, guys.
Right. And that's exactly, and I think this is what sort of stands us out from the others, because it's been on more than one occasion, Lou, that we broke stories that the others had access to. At least I believe they had access to, but refused to report on it. So I think that has to be something that's noticed and considered the type of media that I want to be getting my truth from.
Yeah, and once again, and thanking the folks that have supported us to this date, because things don't happen, in a vacuum, Michael, as you know. They just, it takes, besides all the hard work and everything else, sometimes it does take those greenbacks, as John D. Liberto would say. But at the end of the day, we have not made that the I guess the ulterior motive, and that's hard. It's a hard thing to balance. It really is. I mean, because folks do need to make livings and pay the bills, and that's the way life goes on. But at the same token, I guess what I'm saying is thank you, guys. I don't know what else to say, but thanks, Michael. We're all getting down. X, you got about 10 seconds if you have a last word, and then we'll leave it up to Mike.
The most important thing every individual should have is a commitment to the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be.
Ooh, beautiful, beautiful.
Good.
Michael, you got it, my friend.
And I'll leave that. God bless all.
God bless everybody, and we'll be back next week on Sanity Check 94.3 FM The Talker.